the app that changed everything. It was a quiet evening in late autumn, and I had just moved back home after graduating college in May. The world was still grappling with the aftermath of the pandemic, and I felt the weight of loneliness pressing down on me. My parents' house was a cold and silent place, a stark contrast to the busy, social atmosphere of my university. I had always been a skeptic about online dating, but something about that night made me feel a strange urgency to connect with someone, anyone. I wanted to feel like I wasn't alone in the world, so I decided to try dating apps seriously. I had used Tinder before, but a friend suggested I give Bumble a shot, claiming it would be different. At first, it was fun. I swiped through dozens of profiles, matching with a few guys who seemed decent. But after a couple conversations, I realized there was no real connection. A few chats fizzled out within days. Some guys were a little too forward, and others were simply not interested. But one day, I matched with someone who seemed different. His name was Jake, and his profile was intriguing. He was an enigma, handsome but with a hint of mystery. He seemed to be about my age, and his profile pictures were casual, showing with friends at a bar, on a hike, and at family gatherings. Nothing about him screamed danger. We exchanged messages for a few days, and the conversation flowed smoothly. Nothing out of the ordinary. That was until the night he asked me for my Snapchat. I thought nothing of it and agreed, figuring it would just be another harmless way to get to know each other. He added me right away, and the messages kept flowing. At first, they were lighthearted, talking about work, our mutual interest in movies, and our love for dogs. But as the days passed, something started to feel off. It wasn't something I could pinpoint, but I knew it was there. Maybe it was the way he always managed to bring the conversation back to a place I wasn't entirely comfortable with, talking about politics, his views on things that didn't line up with mine. I wasn't sure, but something in my gut told me to be cautious. One night, he messaged me out of the blue, accusing me of being too liberal because I had posted something about supporting Joe Biden. He sent me over 40 messages, one after the other, explaining why I was wrong and how I needed to support Trump. It was a bizarre, unsolicited rant that felt completely out of line. I had been polite, but after his barrage of messages, I didn't know how to respond. He didn't stop there. He continued sending me memes trying to lighten the mood, but his tone was persistent, forceful, almost demanding. I didn't reply. I didn't even block him. I just read his messages, unfollowed him, and hoped it would be over. But then, the next morning, something strange happened. All of his messages disappeared. Gone. It was as if he had erased every trace of our conversation. At first, I thought maybe it was a glitch, but then it hit me. He had erased everything. He had control over what I saw and what I didn't. I felt my heart race. I didn't know what to make of it, but something deep inside me told me that what had started as a harmless online interaction was something far darker than I had imagined. Weeks went by, and I pushed the incident with Jake to the back of my mind. I tried not to dwell on it, but I couldn't shake the unease. Every time I opened Snapchat, I half expected him to message me again, but nothing came. I was almost relieved, thinking it was all over. Then, one fateful night, I was scrolling through Facebook when I came across a news article that froze me in my tracks. A man from a town about an hour away from me had shot and killed an elderly woman. The story was chilling. He had broken into her home, holding her hostage before killing her. As I read further, I realized something that made my blood run cold. The man's name and face. They looked so familiar. I stared at the screen in disbelief. It was Jake. It was the same guy I had been chatting with on Bumble. I rushed to pull up the messages we'd exchanged, and there it was, his name, his profile picture, everything matched. My heart pounded in my chest. I had actually talked to him. I had shared messages with this man, who was now a murderer. The fear that gripped me was paralyzing. What if I had answered his messages differently? What if I had been more receptive to his views? Or even just entertained the idea of meeting him in person? The what-ifs plagued me. What if he had come after me next? I couldn't stop thinking about the possibility that I had narrowly escaped something far worse than an uncomfortable conversation. In the weeks that followed, I found myself looking over my shoulder, feeling paranoid whenever I was out. I couldn't shake the thought that Jake, or whatever his real name was still watching me, still lingering somewhere in the shadows. The fact that it erased all traces of our conversation made it even worse. It was as if he'd been hiding in plain sight, watching me without my knowledge. I started to question everything. Had I been too trusting? Had I been so caught up in the idea of finding someone, anyone, to talk to that I had let my guard down? It wasn't until one evening, when I was scrolling through my newsfeed again, that the true weight of the situation hit me. I saw another news story about Jake. This time, it was a more detailed account of the attack. He had been known to the authorities for some time, having been involved in various incidents, all leading up to the brutal murder. He was a ticking time bomb, and I had unknowingly interacted with him. I thought about what might have happened if he had decided to target me. It made my stomach churn. The days turned into weeks, and I tried to get on with my life, but the memory of Jake and the horror of what he had done stayed with me. I couldn't ignore it, not with the constant reminders popping up on my phone. One evening, after a long day at work, I received a message on Instagram. It was from an unknown number. My heart stopped as I saw the message preview. "I know you've been reading about me." A chill ran down my spine. My mind raced. How did he know? How was he finding me? I thought I had erased all connections, blocked him on everything, and yet here he was again, lurking in the shadows of my online world. I quickly blocked the number, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still out there, still watching. I knew I had to take action. I couldn't just sit back and let this haunting feeling consume me. I contacted the authorities, filed a report, and spoke to a counselor about my growing anxiety. But the fear lingered. It was as if Jake was always one step ahead, always lurking in the corners of my mind. I never went out alone at night, always double-checked my locks, and avoided public places I frequented. The last thing I ever heard from Jake was a message on my Facebook account, sent just days before he was caught. It was simple, cryptic, and chilling. "You'll never know the truth about me, but you'll always remember me." To this day, I can't shake the feeling that he's still out there, somewhere. That night, I came so close to being a part of his twisted game. I could have been his next victim. I don't know what would have happened if I had given him the chance, but I'm thankful I never did. This experience has taught me a valuable lesson about trust, about the dangers of online interactions, and the need to be cautious, not just about who you meet, but about who you let into your life. The internet is a vast, dark place, and sometimes the people who seem the most harmless are the ones who hide the darkest secrets. I'll never forget the feeling of seeing his name in the news, realizing how close I came to danger. It's something that haunts me every day, reminding me that not everyone online is who they say they are. This rewrite turns the original story into a more intense psychological horror narrative. We expanded the emotional tension, creating a slow build-up that reaches its climax with a chilling realization that the protagonist unknowingly connected with a dangerous individual. Would you like to continue expanding more of this story, or would you prefer to explore other elements of it?